Welcome to another podcast episode. This is the Business and Investing Podcast where you learn all things business and investing related. So today we're going to talk to someone I recently met and we're quickly becoming good friends. Great guy, a pure real estate investor who's been doing it for a little while. And I think he's a great guy for you to learn from because he has a unique approach to real estate investing. Right now, he's investing in all 50 states. And where you hear most people talking about virtual investing, this is exactly what he does. But he doesn't wholesale in all 50 states. He's buying and holding in 50 states, which is obviously my language. He's talking my language, right? So passive income, real estate investing in all 50 states, doing it virtually. And how long have you been doing this, Logan?
Yeah, so we bought our first investment property just in 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So for everybody who has an excuse, who think you can't make money in this market right now, or who's just getting started, here's somebody who literally started 3 years ago, and he's crushing it in all 50 states, buying and holding real estate. So we're gonna dig into his business. We're gonna talk about how he's doing this and how you guys can get started doing this as well. All right. I always want to encourage you guys to look past your current circumstances and see something bigger than yourself. Okay, always look past your current circumstances because you're in that situation right now doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to be in that situation, especially if you think bigger than what you're thinking right now. And I'm not saying that you're thinking small, but what I'm saying is your current circumstances doesn't dictate who you are or what you're going to become. All right. It'll only dictate who you are and what you become if you allow it to affect you negatively. So we're going to take all of the positive information from Logan today. We're going to see how he started literally 3 years ago and how he's crushing it in real estate and how you guys can do the same thing. Logan Manzanares, what's going on, my man?
Yes, thank you. And Jamel, like before we get started, I just want to thank you so much for having me on here and giving me the stage. You were amazing on our podcast you did a couple weeks ago, the origin story. We got to hear your story and your background. And if you guys have not seen that podcast and heard Jamel's origin story, we got him almost to cry a little bit, and he shared some really cool things with us. Honestly, it was really impactful. Me and my co-host Sam, we still talk about it. So thank you. So
let me bring something up about that. I did link that as if you guys look through my playlists, I have a guest feature from Jamel Gibbs playlist. Yeah. Check out the origin story. These guys have a fantastic podcast, something unique, something different that I've never seen before. And what they do is they bring on business owners, and they have business owners talk about their origin story, because most people see the end result of someone's success, but they don't hear how it all started. So I was able to really dive into some stuff that I wasn't even thinking about. It was an emotional podcast for me personally, and it really made me think about stuff that I haven't thought about in years. And we brought out some stuff that wasn't even talked about, that I've never talked about with anybody on that podcast. So I highly recommend. Matter of fact, I'm going to link it up in the cards for you if you're watching this on YouTube. But if you're listening to this on the podcast, definitely check out that episode. Go to my YouTube page at Jamel Gibbs, or go to Logan's page, which I'm going to link in the description box below. And you're going to see the origin story of Jamel Gibbs for sure, man. But why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, man? Tell them about your origin story.
You know, I just appreciate you having me on here. And I think when people hear that, like, oh, I'm buying 50 homes in 50 states, and I started investing in 2019, like, let me share a little bit before that, because all of a sudden it's like, how is this happening? Like, I'm maybe just trying to get my first deals with someone who's thinking about, who's on this podcast, maybe listening to, or maybe they're trying to get their second or third deal, right? Mm-hmm. And so I understand that, like, I didn't buy my first investment property until 2019, but like when I decided to make that decision, it was like 2015. So it actually took me 4 years to actually buy my very first investment property, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the education. I didn't have the mentorship. I didn't have the money. I didn't have anything. Mm-hmm. And it was really 4 years of me just learning, getting educated, and going the slow path. And then, man, once I finally bought one, then all of a sudden I started to see the light and see, as you know, you've been in the game for a long time, Jamel, it's like how powerful investment real estate can be, not just from a cash flow standpoint, but how fast you can build your wealth.
Yep. Well, let me ask you this, man.
My
Why do you feel like it took you 4 years to finally take action, though?
Yeah. So let me back up a little bit more. So I had a different business that was my main focus, which was the reason why it probably took me 4 years as well, because I just wasn't focused. And so I started a gym in 2013. I actually became a personal trainer in 2011, right after college. Left the big box gym, like your 24/7 fitness gyms, like whatever they are, right? And started my own gym in 2013. And so I knew that I needed to create a business, and then from that business, the money I made from there, I would invest into real estate. Well, I didn't have the money. Again, in 2015, when I realized that I needed to start to invest in real estate. And so it was actually good because it taught me, or what I learned along the process, is actually how to make money first. And so I made money in my fitness business, and I ended up getting a mentor in 2017. A lot of people know who he is today. Nobody knew who he was back then. His name is Alex Hermosi, so he's big on YouTube now. But he basically gave me the blueprint of how to take my gym, which the previous year had done $60,000 the entire year. We did $50,000 in our first month working with him. And so we were able to really get a nice little boost from an income standpoint. And over the next 2 years, so that was 2017 till 2019, we were in a phase of our business called stack cash. Yeah. And so we stacked a lot of cash. And that's where we actually got our introduction into buying investment real estate, was literally just the traditional, boring way you possibly can. Find an on-market deal, put 25% down through a traditional lender. Like, not something I would recommend to people today, but like that's just was our path into real estate.
Gotcha, man. Alex is definitely crushing it right now, man. A lot of people know who Alex is because his YouTube channel is blowing up, but a lot of people know who he is through the Gym Launch brand that he used to own. So, so you understood the value of, and this is what I took away from that particular part of the story. You understood the value of hiring someone to skip the learning curve, to help you skip the learning curve, and obviously the results spoke for themselves, right?
Dude, it was the first big investment that I had ever made into myself as an entrepreneur.
How much was that investment?
So just to put perspective, I was literally the 5th person to join Gym Launch. I was like right in the very beginning of it. So like he had changed the price for the first 4 people, right? And so my investment into that was $10,000.
Okay.
And there was no payment plan. There was no anything. It was just like it was $10,000. Actually, it was half right then, and then half in 30 days.
Gotcha.
Right. And I literally cried, Jamel. Like I cried. I was like, dude, like at that time, all I had was $10,000, and I literally had it underneath my pillow, because that's how like worried I was about money.
So that tells me something about you, though, man. That tells me that you're, number one, you were willing to put it all in, put it all out there. Most people are not willing to do that. Yeah. You understood the value of a mentor. You were willing to put it all out there, and because of that, look at what happened. You made $60,000. Yeah. How long did it take for you to make that $60,000?
Yeah, so it was $50K. We made it literally in our very first month.
Within your first month, so you made all your money back. Ready. You 5X'd your money in a month, basically, right? And you were afraid. I'm sure you would. You probably
crying, man.
Had some cold sweats at nighttime. Couldn't sleep.
I did not sleep very well.
You didn't sleep, but when you made the money,
I did.
You understood the value of a mentor, and most people don't understand.
And you know what's funny? You know what's funny about that, Jamel? Is that that 10,000 was just for what Gym Launch. So Alex had a second program called Gym Legacy, and so out of that 50,000, I ended up giving like 20,000 of it more to him to join Gym Legacy.
But it was worth it
because I was like, I don't care what it costs. I do not care, right? If this is what you showed me in the first 30 days, like I was like, imagine what you can show me after that. Exactly. And by the way, like the next program was even better. So.
Unbelievable, man. and that's what it's all about. I do the same thing. I coach people in real estate in order to be able to help them grow their businesses a lot quicker. And as long as people follow the routine, man, I mean, the results speak for themselves. I don't have to be online showing you fancy cars and stuff like that. I like to show results. Yep. And, I pride myself on that, man. So for you, you basically, you started in real estate through the gym launch sequence. Yep. You kind of found real estate from there. What sparked your interest in real estate in the first place?
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell the old cliche story that a lot of people tell is, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and again in like 2015.
Mhm.
At that point, I was like 2.5 years into like my true entrepreneurship journey, and I was just looking for books. And the first book I actually read was Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins.
Mhm.
I started listening to audiobooks at that time, and I was like, oh my gosh, this book is amazing, right? And I had a client at the time because I was one personal trainer who I was kind of like my first kind of mentor. It was really cool because he paid me and I got to ask him questions about business, right? It was the most amazing mentor ever. Someone who was really successful, and I told him about this book I just listened to, and I was like talking to him all about Vanguard and all this other things. He's like, you need to read The Millionaire Next Door. I was like, okay. And so I read The Millionaire Next Door, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I got all excited. And I was like, yes, we'll just save our way to wealth. And I told my wife about it, and she just wasn't quite as excited as I was. And I was like, huh, maybe there's something else. And so then I remember I had a buddy in college who talked about this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of going down this rabbit hole. And so I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, oh, that is it. That's what I'm looking for. And so that was kind of the book that was like passive income, rich don't work for money, all those famous principles in there. And real estate just was the answer to basically all those questions for me anyway.
Yeah, I remember reading Rich Dad. So I graduated high school in '99. I remember reading Rich Dad while I was in high school. So around
That's awesome.
'99, yeah, I think it was '99, maybe a year out, a few months out of high school is when I read it. And that kind of sparked my interest in real estate. And I don't know if you know, but I used to work on Wall Street. I think I told you that before. I used to work on Wall Street before. But then you have, there's another book that really turned things up for me recently. Within the last 5 years, I want to say I read it multiple times. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. And that book really, not necessarily saying I didn't understand the value of passive income before, but that book really helped me in understanding the value of knowing how to invest your money and building passive income before it, because of it.
Yeah.
So those two books really
Love
changed the
that book too.
game with the way I think about money. And I think it'll, matter of fact, I'm going to link those in the description box for you guys to be able to check those out.
Yeah.
A lot of people are familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but they're not as familiar with The Richest Man in Babylon, which I think is probably one of the best books written of all time, besides the Bible.
It's an
There's
easy
no
read,
comparison
too.
there.
Yeah. It's an easy read.
Easy read, man.
The
I
Rich
love
Man
it.
in Babylon too.
Yeah.
I like that
Love
book.
those
It's an
books,
easy
man.
read.
Great books, man. So you started, you had an interest in real estate because of the passive income idea, because of the Rich Dad Poor Dad situation.
Yeah.
You started building up a gym. You decided to. What did you do with the gym?
Yeah. So we kept the gym. So the way that I understood the Kiyosaki method was that you have some active income, and then all your active income that you save, right? Part of the Rich Man Babylon is that you save some of that money, and then you put it into. You don't just save it, but you also invest it into basically ways to make your money make more money. And real estate was a thing for me. And so that's what we did. We just basically stacked cash, and all the money that we saved, we had allocated towards real estate. And so at that point, again, from 2015 to 2019 was just me getting educated on trying to figure out what did that mean? And I would just watch a lot of Bigger Pockets episodes of entrepreneurs and real estate investors on there. I remember at the time it was about episode 300, so I actually don't even know what it's at anymore, but at 300 I worked myself back and just listened to all these different entrepreneurs in real estate and talked about their different strategies. Everyone had different strategies, everyone had different things, and I just I took what made sense to me and was kind of fit my situation, my personality, and I basically formed my own formula based on listening to a ton of different people explain their stories.
A couple of things that you did really well. Just listening to your story, man. Again, we're gonna repeat that you understood the value of a mentor, but along with the mentorship, you're surrounding yourself with people who are a few levels above where you want to be, and because of that, it helps you scale a lot quicker. Is that true or false?
Yeah, 100%. And there's one story I want to tell you too, because that was from like a standpoint of me from afar, right? Just like passive listening. But I was part of a networking group inside our local market for my gym business, and it was called Biz to Biz, which is very similar to any sort of like B&I group across the country where you have like one personal trainer, you have an insurance agent, you have a massage therapist, you have one of every different type of business inside a room, and the whole goal is for each person to refer each other business, right? Well, I was in that group for 2 years and I got like 2 leads. So it wasn't great for my business. But what it was great for is I met this connection in there. His name was Mike. And one day at the end of our meeting, every single person, they do our little elevator pitch, is what they call it, where you talk about, my name is Lee Manzanares. I'm with Big Sky Barbell. We have a 6-week challenge where you can lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks for free, yada, 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 right? Well, he started talking about some of his real estate and his rentals. And I was like, interesting. And this guy, he owned a blind guy business. I was like, that's kind of weird. But rentals was on my mind. And so I reached out or after the meeting, I was like, hey, like, let's go catch lunch. Just curious about you, what you got going on. Come to find out, the dude had like $30,000 of cash flow from real estate. And he had multiple businesses, and the only reason he was in the group is because he had some buddies that were in the group that just wanted he wanted some opportunity to hang out with him. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I found my rich dad, right? And so I was like, how do I provide value to this guy? I knew nothing about real estate. I didn't have any money, and I was like, I have no idea how I'm gonna provide value to him. And so I got me thinking. I was like, well, I'm a personal trainer, and well, everyone wants to lose weight, and so I said, hey, if I train you for free twice a week, would you teach me about real estate?
Found a local mentor.
Sure. I was like, amazing, right? And so I remember 2 weeks in to me training him for free. At the very end of the session, I was like, dang, I didn't put a timeline on this. And I had asked every single question I could think of about real estate.
Wow. but look what you did.
It was amazing because I ended up training him for 9 more months. And what I failed to realize, what I learned along the way was I was building a relationship with him. Exactly. So I was actually getting to know him and his family. And again, that was like 2015. And so fast forward to 2019, when we first got our first deal, like we'd stayed in communication, we'd stayed in contact. And I got my first deal. I was like, hey, like, do you mind just coming and just tell me your thoughts on it? Like, here are the numbers. Come check out the house. I remember him walking through the house and looking around. And he's like, yeah, it'll do. I was like, okay. And then he did that 2 more times with 2 other properties. And then finally, it was the 4th property that I found. And it was a deal on Craigslist that it was actually during COVID. It was like December 2020. The guy ran out of money halfway through trying to rehab this property. And I found it, and I started talking to the guy. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a good deal, but I don't have the resources. I don't even have all the cash to be able to take this down myself. So I reached out to him, and he's like, let's partner on it. I was like,
I was going to say
yes. And that was it, man. And so since then, now, that was our first deal that we did, and now we partnered on 4 more deals. And current partners, like, I love hanging out with him. It's something that we now have grown more into, like, a friendship and a partnership rather than just like a mentorship. So it's been really
That's
cool.
A great story, man. I just joined, and for those of you listening, is a quick tip for you. You might want to find out if there's like a business group in your area that you can join. I just joined one of the business groups in my area. All of the businesses are part of this one group in my local city, and they have meetings multiple times per month, and it's a great way to meet people outside. The funny thing is, no one in the group is in real estate, but they all are cash rich. They're all business owners. So for me, it's a great way to meet private money guys. Great way to partner on other deals that I'm doing. So for a $250 investment, just to join the group is worth it for me, even if I only pick up one private money lender. Same thing in your case. You joined the business group locally. Yeah. And
write that down.
Years later, it materialized into something big for you. But what I like what you did, and what most people don't do, is you offered value to him in exchange for value. So, for example, you said, "How about I train you, and you teach me real estate?" You offered something before you asked for something, and most people don't understand that concept. And if more people understood that concept, more people would be successful, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. I think about that concept as I heard this from a mentor, actually, Alex. He talks about digging your well before you're thirsty. Man. And I think it's like one of the most powerful things you can do. And it's actually something I did with him, ironically enough, because this is the thing that he said it and resonated with me. And so going back a little bit to me working with Alex, is that I worked with him actually as a client for, long time, but I was also one of the first gym owners he actually hired. And so I actually worked with Alex, for Alex as well, while I was still doing the gym. And I started working with him for free,
Yep.
right? I started working with him, an opportunity to he had like daily calls, is what he called them, and they were 12 o'clock every single day. And he was doing them for a really long time. And so I was the one who actually replaced him on the daily calls. And I did that, but I didn't get paid anything to do those. But I eventually ended up doing some sales for him. I got paid for that. But it was just, again, a way that I could see I could provide value to him and try to take some, like, how do I serve him? And ironically enough, like, our relationship is like still strong. I still talk to him. And obviously now everyone knows who he is. And he's an amazing human being. But it's going back to that concept of just dig your well before you're thirsty, because ultimately, like, the relationship is what matters more than
What's
anything.
good about him is he's young too, man. He's what, 31, 32 years old, made $100 million already,
Yeah.
and he's providing value just like you are, man. So you learn from the best, you become the best. You know what I mean? So where was that transition for you? Like, as far as mindset, going from being a gym owner to a real estate investor, when did that transition? Like, when was there like an aha moment for you that kind of led you to say, okay, this isn't as hard as I think it is?
Yeah, man. So coming specifically from the fitness industry, it's like swimming against the current, right? And someone, as you know, who is big in the training world, has done competitions, you understand the level of commitment and dedication it takes to change your physique. Well, our primary clientele was just the average Joe Smo who wanted to lose 25 pounds and wanted to feel good about themselves and their body, and there's a lot of stuff that goes with it. But we had a very niche of that. The weight loss is that we were doing everything. We were doing nutrition, we were doing accountability, we were doing fitness, we were doing mindset. We were basically combining this, so our price point was pretty high. And so it was like it's a swimming against the current, because it was like a struggle to pull people with us. Like, come on, come on, come on. And they're like trying to swim away from us, and we're like trying to pull them back in. And so from the business standpoint, once I got into real estate, I was like, oh my gosh, this is freaking easy. Like, people actually, like, people value homes. They value these things where people don't inherently value their fitness. They don't value health. And so once I got in the taste of real estate, I was like, me and my wife both, because my wife is in the business with me, and we're like, dude, like, this is so much more fun, so much more fulfilling. And instead of having to like pull on people, like people are pushing on us to like try to join our team and try to be part of this real estate business, reaching out to it. So just,
Got you.
man, I think it's super grateful that I went through that, because it taught me a lot about sales. It taught me a lot about commitment, a lot about dedication, a lot about sticking through things and being able to, to claw. But then once I saw the opportunity of real estate, I was like, wow, like, this is, again, it's like swimming with the current. And in this phase of my life, I want to swim with the current.
Gotcha, man. And what was a mindset shift for you between the two? Was there a mindset shift?
Yeah. So as far as, I guess we can say mindset shift in regards to
Transitioning the
like,
style of business.
yeah. So we did both for a very long time. And so up until just April of this year, we had both. And so April of this year, we actually no longer had the fitness business. The guy who was running my fitness business, he took it over. And we've been full-time real estate since April of 2022. So it's like 4 or 5 months now, I think. And it's been amazing. Like, just the attention that it takes to do two businesses has been very noticeable. And so now that we're all in real estate, like, more opportunities come to us, and because that's what we're
right,
focused
man.
on.
I would definitely agree with that. If you're doing two things at one time, it's kind of difficult to be great at, both of them. But if you focus on the one, you can become really, really good at it. At least that's been my.
And they're separate businesses completely. Like they had nothing. They had no verticals. Like we have other businesses that align with real estate, but
Right,
it was totally
exactly.
separate.
But because they were two separate businesses, it kind of takes your attention away from the one versus the other. You know what I mean? So let's dig into some real estate stuff, man. 50 states, man. You're investing in 50 states. What sparked that for you?
Yeah, so we at the beginning of, or at the end of 2021, we ended up finding another mentor, Pace Morby. And so once I joined his
Shout out to
group,
Pace. I'm going to link
his
the
community was,
podcast I did with him up at the top as well.
that's awesome. Yeah. You know,
Yep.
Pace, we've talked about Pace on our last podcast, like just a good human being. And he's built this really incredible community of real estate investors across the country. And I was like, I saw the value in the community in itself of like, man, there's people wholesaling in every single market and every single state you can possibly think of. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I was like, I wanted people to come to Montana, right? I was like, you guys come to Montana. But then I started realizing that was swimming against the current. So I was like, I'll just swim with the current. And I was like, hey, like, I'll come to you. And so when we decided to do this 50 homes in 50 states thing, like we obviously have certain criteria because most people are like, how do you do like you don't want to invest in California, you don't want to invest in New York, you don't want to invest in Illinois, like all these like not landlord friendly states. And of course, there's like there's ways that you can still invest in those states that you get around that. But the big reason why we're doing that is because we have a network of people where we've got people who are like looking for deals in their backyards. They're in all these areas and they know the market, they know the area, they know the contractors. They know the insurance agents. They know everything. And so I could go into North Carolina. I could go into South Carolina. I can go into Florida, and I have to go like build these resources up. Or I go say, hey, Jamel, like you want to partner up? And you say yes, and all of a sudden I get access to your network. And to me, so basically, like we changed our strategy from us owning the whole grape to now I just want a small piece of the watermelon, and I want to bring in as many people as I possibly can with that watermelon.
You know, a lot of people overcomplicate virtual investing when that's really all it is just partnering with other people, or at least, you know, hiring someone that can be a team member who can build out the entire infrastructure for you. You know, but when you partner with people and they know that they're gonna get a slice of the pie, and you don't have to pay them a paycheck, they earn just like you earn. It's that much easier to build in all 50 states, man. So, great concept, man. So, what exactly are you buying in these areas? Like, what type of properties, and what's your investment strategy like?
Yep. So, as far as the type of properties that we're getting across our desk, it really just comes like what comes across our desk, and we're looking for cash flow. So ultimately, I'm looking for a 30% cash on cash return at minimum, and that just is enough for us to like split up and go around, right? And so that's the reason why I look for that. And so we do short-term rentals. We have one property that's a corporate rental. We have some long-term rentals as well, and so that's kind of our criteria: is 30% cash on cash. Any of the strategies will work, and I'm looking for experienced operators. Or if we don't have an experienced operator there, then we basically will implement our management team into that area. So
gotcha, man. So you're doing short-term rentals. I'm assuming you're burring. Are you doing any wholesaling at all? Nothing. No wholesaling. Okay. So let's talk about how our listeners can kind of mimic what you're doing at the moment. So if we had to provide them with a step-by-step process, let's say 3 to 5 steps, what would be the first thing that our listeners would do in order to invest virtually in other markets in order to be able to buy and hold? Like, what's some of the things that they need? What's some of the steps that they need to take in order to accomplish this?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because like some of my partners on these deals are wholesalers, right? And so wholesalers, again, it just depends on their situation, but most people, while they're in wholesaling, they need that active income. And so I offer a unique proposition to them. It's like, hey, like you can still get some of that active income, but what if you maybe didn't take that active income on this specific deal, or is this a deal you wanted to hold, and instead of you getting an assignment fee, what if you just got equity on that deal? And so now you're playing the long game, which, again, you and I are really much, like we're very much in congruent. Like that's the game you eventually want to play, is the long game and holding real estate. I was like, now you can create some cash flow, you create some appreciation, you create some equity, homie, right? And so that's how I'm doing deals with wholesalers across the country, is that instead of them looking for an assignment fee, now they're like, hey, I can get equity, right? And so it's not every deal that they're doing, because they always need to feed their family, they need to pay their bills. But if they find a deal that is like something that they really, really like, and they know the area, and it's in a good market, a good part of town, and like I just need the money, that's when they would come to me. So if anybody's listening who's in that situation, like that's how we provide value to wholesalers.
Excellent, man. Now, obviously, some of these deals are creative deals as well, where you can structure seller financing and subject to and things like that. Are you finding those deals frequently in different markets?
So our primary acquisition is still cash, right? Like we still cash.
Hmm.
We're very lendable, so we have access to lenders. But we do have a couple seller finance deals. I personally haven't got into a subject to deal that we've closed. I've
Hmm.
had negotiations with them, but I personally haven't done a subject to. But we have a couple of seller finance deals, but some are cash. So again, it's not like we're not just dependent on creative deals.
Right.
I think a lot of times, especially inside sub two specifically, is that because it's the creative, it's the sub two group that people get excited when a seller is like, yeah, I'll do terms, and they want 50% down, and they want $2,000 a month payments. I'm like, dude, that's worse than I could get from the bank.
Yep. Yeah,
So
that
actually,
means
the
they're not
deals.
motivated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure, man. So the first step would be meeting someone in another market that you can partner with, and you
Yeah,
can do it with wholesalers.
yeah.
What would be the second step?
Networking, man. So again, if somebody wants to, again, back to your original question, if somebody wants to actually do what I do,
Hmm.
it's just networking and connecting. It's
That's
connecting
all
the
this
deal.
business really is, though. At the end of the day, right?
That's all it is. That's all it's like. That's all wholesaling is, right? Like you're
Yep.
finding a seller who's trying to sell a home. You're trying to find a buyer, whether it be a fix flipper, a buy and holder, a homestead buyer, and you're trying to connect those two together, and you make your thing in the middle. Like I'm just doing the same thing. I'm finding the buyer, excuse me, I'm finding the seller, but then I'm also finding the money, which is basically your buyer
Hmm.
in a buy and hold situation. And so I have a group of investors, just like you talked about, like going and networking, finding people who have money who don't have deals, and you connect the money to the deal, and then you insert yourself in.
That's right. And make a profit because of it, man.
It's
You
wholesaling,
know,
except for instead
that's
of
right.
getting checks, we're getting equity, right?
That's right, man. I like to call that arbitrage as well, in
Yeah,
a way,
that's exactly what it
because you
is.
can, that's exactly what it is, man. So
Yeah,
you find your market, find your partner within that market, then
yeah,
you network, and then obviously the wholesalers, the partner is going to bring you some deals
yep,
at the end of the day.
yep.
What do you do next?
Yeah. So then once I have a deal, I'm like, hey, I think this is a good deal. Then I go to my pool of investors, and I already know what their criteria is. I know what their goals are, and so I'll go to the first one who I think is it's the best deal for them. And I'll go to them and say, hey, I have this deal. What do you think? Right? And they'll be like, yeah. And then we talk about equity, and then basically it just comes down to negotiating equity for them. And then if I have to, I'll go back to the wholesaler and say, hey, we got to negotiate some equity on this, and we have a deal. Or if that partner says no, that equity partner says no, I go to the next one. And that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just trying to match the
That's
money
it.
up with the deal.
That's it, man, and create win-win situations, obviously.
Exactly.
So, quick question, man. How much market research are you doing, or are you relying on the partner to be able to do that for you?
100%. I'm not, I mean, once the deal is closed, or excuse me, once it's like agreed upon, then I'll make sure, like, I'll go do my due diligence to just confirm everything and just make sure that everything is, that everything makes sense. But I'm really relying heavily on the person who's in the market. And so, like, to just put a little bit more clarification on that,
Hmm.
people who are wholesaling virtually, I won't partner with them. And as an equity standpoint anyway, because I want them to actually know the market. I want them to have like boots on the ground. I want them to know the areas, right? Like I'm really relying on their experience of being in that market. So I'm really relying on them heavily. And then I will I'll basically do my due diligence to confirm all their data. But ahead of time, I'm doing zero. I'm doing zero data
Zero data,
research.
no market research, you're relying on your partners to be able to do it. So you're obviously linking up with experienced investors in other markets, especially wholesalers. Now, the
Exactly.
benefit to the wholesaler is they get to close on a deal that they probably didn't know how to close on. So you're kind of bringing a certain level of expertise to the table as well, where you don't have to. You're not going to tell a wholesaler everything, basically.
Yeah.
They know how to do is wholesale, and you're going to bring a different level of expertise, which is going to allow them to close a different kind of deal. Is that right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
exactly right. It's almost like mentorship in a way that's like, hey, like let me show you how to buy deals. And once you buy your
Right.
first deal, even when it comes to wholesale, like when you wholesale your first deal, you're like, oh, that's not so hard. All of a sudden you buy
Exactly.
your first deal and you hold as a renter, like, oh, that's not so hard. And so a lot of that is like it's mentorship in a way that you're getting paid equity on.
It's like never giving away to connect, man. You can't give away to connect. You got
Yeah.
to be the plug. You know what I
Exactly,
mean?
exactly. Well, and that's the thing too is even like they might know who the partner is, but like who has that relationship? Like the partner who's got
Yeah.
the money, like they trust me. And so that's like maybe a third thing that I'll talk about as well, is having some track record, having some credibility. You know,
Yep.
I've owned real estate for 3.5 years, again, not a very long time, but now we have like we own 27 doors, and so like we have some experience managing properties, and so I'm really putting my reputation on the line with the person who's got the money to say, hey, this person's got the deal. Um, like, like making that connection, and then my job is to make sure that everything goes smoothly. And if I have to step in on the management side, that we can step in and just make sure that the thing produces what it's supposed to produce.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So you obviously figured out how to do this. Now, how quickly is your business growing? How do you feel like you're doing well, but how do you feel like do you feel like now is a good time for your business? Do you feel like now is a good time to be in real estate in general?
Yeah, it's a very interesting time, right? It's very interesting, and the strategies will always continue to evolve. And the fact that we have creative options definitely allows us to continue to play this game. But if we were just dependent on cash, just depending on burr deals, like I see that window narrowing like very, very quickly. So I think the creative finance side of it, doing seller finance, is huge. And like you've been in this game, so you understand creative finance at a very high level as well. And that's one thing that Pace talks about, is like now is the time when sellers can't just like name a price and get their number. Now is when they actually get to be. Now is when they have a little bit of flexibility. You're willing to negotiate. They're willing to be negotiated. And when you understand creative finance, you actually can make terms that actually make sense.
Yep.
So I'm excited for sure.
I asked that because a lot of people, there's a lot of doom and gloom being talked about all on the internet and on the news and all. Everywhere you turn, there's an inflation headline, or is now a good time to be in real estate headline. And a lot of people are being scared into not investing. But I always want to encourage you guys to know that how did Warren Buffett say, when there's blood in the streets, that's when you buy, right? So right now there's a lot of scared people, and you don't want to be one of those scared people. You got to take action, because this is the time that you can build substantial wealth if you know what you're doing. And don't be afraid to invest into your education. I mean, obviously, Logan, he understood the value of that immediately, and look how quickly his business has moved because of it. But some people, they look at investing into themselves as an expense versus an investment, and that's exactly what it is. You are your biggest investment. You are your biggest asset. Why not invest into yourself? Because somebody can take a house away from you. Somebody can take cryptocurrency away from you. Somebody can take stocks away from you. But guess what they can't take away from you? Experience. They can't take away what you know. And you can lose everything. You can make a whole lot of money. I did it twice, right? Yeah. I built myself up. I lost everything. And I built it right back up because I knew how to do it. So once you have an understanding, you can be broke physically, but as long as you have an abundance mindset, you'll always make your money back. And that comes with experience. That comes with the way you think. That comes with a lot of different things. But ultimately, it comes with investing into yourself, understanding that if you surround yourself with the right people, sometimes you have to buy yourself into these relationships. And that's what coaching is. I see a lot of people. I was just reading on one of Pace's his Instagram posts about coaching. I was looking through the comments earlier today, and I do a lot of social media surfing. I play I just sit back and I just look at stuff. I don't really comment. I don't do a lot on social media, but I'm just reading it, and it's just interesting the way some people think about investing into education, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. But that's everybody can have their own opinion. I just see things differently. But my point in bringing all of this up is, if you understand the value of investing into your education, I have a coaching program. Logan has a program as well. If you understand the value of it, it can literally cut light years off of what you're trying to do. You're literally buying somebody else's experience and their knowledge, and as long as you take that information and you apply it, how can you fail? I mean, there's really no way you can fail. Am I right?
Yeah. 100%,
You know?
man. And now more than any time, like when there is blood in the water and starting to get bloody, now's the time where you want someone who you can reach
Yep.
out to and who's been through this, who's cleaned up the mess and who understands what's happening. And so, again, guys like you, Jamel, like people need who investing in coaching, guys like Pace, like people who've been through this game for many years and who have the experience and can skate to where the puck is going, not to where it is. Right, the old Wayne Gretzky
I like that saying, man.
one, yeah, saying there it is. Is like that now is more important than ever. Right, so important.
Yeah, man, for sure. So, listen, man, if our listeners wanted to contact you, obviously you're doing deals in all 50 states. You want to create partners, but I'm sure you're all, I watch your Instagram stuff. Obviously, you're teaching people how to do this as well. If they wanted to reach out to you, how do they do that?
Yeah, best way is Instagram. Logan Lee Manzanares. I'm on there. I respond to all my DMs. Everyone who DMs me, I always respond to you. So yeah, that's the best way. If you have deals that you need underwrote, or again, if you have a deal or if you have money and you're looking to get into a deal, like again, those are my two things. I take money and I take deals and I match them all together and we make sure that it produces babies.
For sure,
every
man.
single month.
For sure, exactly. I like to look at money like soldiers, man. Every single or workers, every single dollar should be working hard to produce more money for you, produce more soldiers, produce more workers for you. And if your money ain't working for you, then guess what? You're gonna go broke. So, so at the end of the day, man, I'm gonna link your Instagram in the description box. I'm also gonna go ahead and link your YouTube. I'm telling you guys, if you don't do anything else today, listen to some of these origin stories that Logan has on his channel. It's a podcast that he runs called The Origin Story, and you have different entrepreneurs telling, not even going into the logistics of deals and stuff like that and how they do things, but more so talking about some of the struggles they went through in order to get to where they are. I think those are important to listen to because some of you are facing the same thing. And sometimes you need to hear that you need to stay in the game. You need to hear other people's experiences who experience certain or similar things as you at this time in your life in order to be able to help you get over the top of the mountain. So listen to that podcast. I think it's a powerful, powerful podcast. It's going to blow up, man. It's definitely going to blow up if it hasn't already. And it's simply because of the type of podcast it is. It's going to help a lot of people, in my personal opinion. But definitely listen to my episode. Logan, man, I'm going to link all of your stuff in the description box. I appreciate you jumping on here, man. What books are you currently reading, bro? I know we talked about some other books before. I'll link all of those in the description as well. But what do you feel like is helping you in your business right now?
I want to say something about the podcast and in your podcast too. So when we were doing your podcast, we had to hear your story, and my co-host Sam, like, he really resonated with your story because he went through something very similar, right? And I think again, like, those stories are so impactful. And as I go back to talking about, like, why did I get into real estate? What got me this idea to get into real estate? It was Rich Dad Poor Dad, which ironically has nothing to do with real estate, but it was all about stories. Yep. Right. And I think the stories sell, and that's stories have always been really big for me and something I found like really impactful. And so that's the idea of the origin story. But as far as books I'm reading right now, I'm reading two books. They're up here, and one is The Power of One More by Ed Milet. That's a brand new book that just came out. I really like that book. And then Have It All.
What was that? The Power of
One More.
Power of One More. Got it.
Yeah.
I gotta check it out.
And then the other book I'm reading with that one is Have It All by Chris Crone. And so Chris is another mentor of mine who I've spent well over 6 figures with as well, and someone I'm like really close with. And his book just came out, Have It All, and it's definitely very much like tactical business book, and investment book as well. So definitely something I recommend people going through and understanding like how it fits your situation and applying the things to your situation from that book.
For sure, man. Shout out to Chris Crone too. He has a great YouTube channel. Definitely check it out. But something powerful you just mentioned. How much did you say you invested with Chris?
Over 6 figures.
Over 6 figures. Yeah. So if you had to take all of your education that you've invested in business and all of these different programs and mentorships and things like that, you're well into the 6 figures, obviously, right?
Double 6 figures.
Double six. Look, double six. Well into the double 6 figures. Now, this is totally off topic. Most people are afraid to invest that kind of money into themselves. When you invest that kind of money into yourself, what does that do for you?
I think how I rationalize it is when Jamel, like you and I are just talking, like we're sitting around and we say, what are our priorities, right? We say our family is our priority. We say our relationships are our priority. Our experience is our priority. We always we'll say money is last, right? But most people, they act as if money is their number one priority because I will do anything for money. And so once I had that epiphany, I was like, I say one thing, but I'm doing something else. And I think the reason why you and I have a good connection, even though we've only connected a couple times now, is because we're very much in something like me and Chris actually connect really well too, because we're people of high integrity. Like when we say we're gonna do something, we always do it, right?
Another key thing, not to cut you off. It's one of my sayings, man. Always do what you say you're gonna do all the time, even if it hurts. Yeah. Do what you say you're gonna do, and everything will always work out.
Yeah, it's something that's definitely a value of mine, and I know just by talking with you, it's about yours, and same thing with Chris as well. And so once I understood that what I was saying wasn't matching with my actions, I was like, oh, it's got to change. And so I was like, what is actually more important? Like, is this relationship with Chris more important than $100,000? Is it, Logan? Right? It's like, prove it. And so those are some of the conversations that I have when I go into investing into something, whatever it is. Like, what's more important in the situation? And not all the times, is that specific relationship or that specific thing more important than the money at that time? I'm not saying that all the time, but it's just it's a good filter to look through.
Absolutely, man. A lot of times people just don't have that kind of money to invest, and I get it. You know what I mean?
Fair. Yep.
But if you're hungry enough, people can find money. Yes. Or if the relationship is that important to you, if you feel like it's really going to benefit you, then people will find the money to be able to do it. It's amazing people find the money to go to college, but when it comes to investing into something that can literally make them wealthy, they second guess it. So it's an unfortunate thing, but it's all part of programming as well. All that's a whole nother thing we could jump into. But I believe that people are programmed to think the way they think, and they think from a scarcity mind. Most people think from a scarcity standpoint versus a position of power, because people are playing defense all the time rather than offense. And if you try to operate from a defensive mode, then you're going to be held back. But if you're playing on offense, there's no way to. What happens when you play on offense? You score, right? Which means you move forward, right? So if you're playing on defense, you're trying to prevent. So I like to operate from an offensive standpoint and think abundantly. Think from a mindset. My mindset is just abundant. I think from a position of abundance, and people I surround myself with do as well, like yourself. You know what I mean? So I think that's really important, man. But you mentioned you invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into yourself. It hasn't phased you not one bit. In fact, what did it do for your business?
Yeah, we definitely have made a lot more money from that money, right? It's been so ironically enough, and we didn't know this when we invested that money, but how I was able to basically create this system was actually a blend from what I learned from Chris, what I learned from Pace, and some of my investors or people from that group I joined with Chris that have literally invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to get me into some of these deals that we're in now. So yeah, I mean, again, it's easy to say now, but
it's hard to do it in the beginning.
How it happened.
I get it.
Yeah, it's about faith, and really, I think this is actually the value as I think about this over the last about 5 years now, since I made that very first big commitment with Alex, is that when you invest into a mentorship, you think you're investing into Alex or Chris or Pace or Jamel, but you're really just investing in yourself, right? And you're investing in the belief in yourself. And so a lot of times you're like, hey, well, what happens if I don't get my money's worth? And so that ultimately comes from a place of not taking 100% responsibility and looking to blame rather than like, I will figure out how to make this worth $10,000. I will make this worth $100,000. And when you go into that mindset, like you cannot not win because it's in your hands, not in
That's
Jamel's
right,
hands.
man. And that's why I tell
Chase's
people
hands.
when they join my coaching program, I'm going to give you everything you need, but it's up to you to make it happen. I'm not going to do it for you.
Yes.
Right? I didn't have a coach when I first started, but it took me years to figure out how to do this. And I made every mistake in the book any mistake you could think of when it comes to, I've made that mistake. So I feel like I'm qualified in that regard to be able to, plus the amount of success I've received, in exchange for the mistakes. I mean, the mistakes I would go through those all over again to have the same type of life that I have right now. It's incredible, right? But, it was up to me to make it happen, right? I didn't have, I wasn't relying on anyone else. I just relied on what my resources were to be able to make it happen. And part of those resources was willpower. So people ask me sometimes, like one of my mentors, Steve DiPalantino, no one knows who he is. He's not in, he don't have a home study course or anything like that. He's just a local investor where I was living at the time. He said, what separated you from everybody else? Like why did it work out for you versus someone else who would go have the same stereotypical things attached to them? Like where I come from, you're either going to end up dead or in jail. In Brooklyn, New York, I grew up in the projects, right? So you're expected to sell drugs. Not everybody. This is a stereotypical thing. You're expected to sell drugs. You're expected to end up in jail or dead, right? Or you're expected to go work for the city, New York City, right? Having some type of a $40,000, $50,000 a year job, right? Very few people ever make it out. So he asked me, like, what separated me? Why me versus anybody else? And a lot of it, that's a whole nother story, whole nother podcast we could talk about. But a lot of it is mindset. I've always seen myself doing bigger things than what my environment afforded me at that time. You know what I mean? So I relied on me. I relied on what I just had a bigger vision for myself than what my current circumstances afforded me. And if your vision is bigger than your current circumstances, it's kind of going back to what we were talking about before. If you can see past your current circumstances, if you're broke right now, you're not always going to be broke. Broke is temporary, right? Poor is a mindset. Poor is something that that's a lifestyle. You can't change poor, but you could change broke, right? So if you have a poor mindset, a poor mentality, then investing into yourself is going to be a big problem. But if you're broke right now, remember, I said it, broke is temporary. Broke can be changed, especially when you have a mindset of abundance. So I just thought that was important to mention, man. I love the fact that you invested hundreds of thousands of dollars just to buy relationships. That's exactly what you did. You bought relationships. And I think more people need to learn how to do that because more people would be successful if they did. Great call, man. Any last words for our listeners, man? What last words of advice would you have for them?
Man, specifically when it comes to business, is just it's fun, and when you understand that the point is just to keep playing the game, and the only way you keep playing is if you find ways to enjoy it, and all of a sudden the dollars and cents and the assets and everything, like they become things you keep track of, just because you want to keep score, but like you want to continue to play the game because it's freaking fun, and that's what it is. And I wake up every single day excited. I really am. And if I'm not excited, I ask myself why, and I figure out how do I change that, whether it be immediately or if I need to put a person or process in place for something that maybe I don't enjoy doing. But business is supposed to be fun. Like that's how these guys play it for a very, very long time. And someone like you, the only way you're in this game for a long time is if you find ways to reinvent yourself, find ways to find ways to continue to play the game. And so that's my biggest piece of advice is just like learn how to have fun with it, enjoy it, like put yourself around people. We talked about this a bit last time. Like put yourself around people so we're not all by ourselves. So you're not thinking that we're like the, like we got to like carry the whole mountain on our backs. That we find other people that we can share that mountain with, and it becomes way more fun when we do this as a team rather than trying to do it all by ourselves.
Man. Logan Manzanares, man. Listen, guys, definitely check him out on all platforms. We're talking about Instagram. We're talking about YouTube. Primarily those two channels. If you just check him out on those, you'll gain a ton of value. He's releasing videos all the time. He has these in-your-face videos on Instagram, which I love. Reality check videos is what I call them. All of us need reality checks, right? So definitely check out those videos. Check out the Origin Story podcast on Logan's channel as well. I'm going to be sure to link all of that for you guys. Check out the description box for all of that information. And I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Peace.